Okay, so we're going to be talking about the other half of kind of classic Hellenistic culture, and this is in Rome. So the other half of kind of the Mediterranean societies, we had Greek in the last chapter, now we have Roman in. So Rome is established. There's like the legend of Romulus and Remus, founded in 753 BCE, a combination of like migrants coming in, making iron, bronze, all these things established the ability to have a culture. So the Etruscans were originally from Anatolia, and they colonized again areas in Rome. Their society will decline because of Greeks, water attacks via water, and Celtic invasions in the north. So the Kingdom of Rome establishes a monarchy in the beginning, and they have streets that they form as part of government projects, temples, public buildings, and become a major center for trade. And this is eventually how they'll start to develop, because people are coming in and out, goods are traveling, ideas are traveling, it's spreading through them. So the establishment of the Republic, and on your study guide this is a section to fill out, so make sure you are filling it out. In 509 BCE, Romans overthrow the last Etruscan king, and they built the Roman Forum, the Republican Constitution, which has two consuls, the civil and the military, and these consuls were elected by an assembly domesticated by the patricians, and the Senate, which is your last bullet there, it advised the consuls and ratified the major decisions, and both the Senate and the consuls, they represent like the interest of the patricians. Okay, so the patricians are the aristocrats or the rich, and the plebeians are your commoners. And there becomes a conflict, and again on your chapter 11 guide, this is the spot to make sure you fill out. The patricians granted the plebeians the tribunes, which are the tribunes allow, or they have power to intervene and veto decisions, but the plebeians, tribunes dominated Roman politics, especially in the early, they're expanded through the 3rd century BCE. And the Constitution allows for dictators, though, to be appointed during times of crisis. So the Roman Republic will eventually expand, and it will eventually take over the iron industry, mostly expanding from the military and kind of incentives as far as trade incentives or trade privileges. They would also exempt from taxes, allow citizenship for people who would join into the Roman Republic. And the Punic Wars are the next topic, and that is a conflict with Carthage from 264 to 164 BCE. And there are major wars over grain supply, so again over resources in the area that would help with trade. And later they conflict with the declining Hellenistic cultures, and eventually Rome will dominate the Mediterranean by the middle of the 2nd century. The imperial expansion, they really try to take over as much of the area as they can, and they have domestic problems as a result of that. The biggest one to know, besides competition for small landholders, are the La Fundienda system, which basically allows them, keeps people underneath control of a small majority. A small minority is governing the vast majority. My goodness. So basically you have a small amount of people controlling a bunch of people through the plantation system. Alright, so this is just a quick picture of the expansion of the Roman Empire. Obviously Rome is in the middle there with Italy looking like the boot. It then spreads out. Eventually will take over the area of Athens and a little bit in Anatolia like we just talked about, and it will spread out into the Iberian Peninsula with Spain. So the Gracchi brothers, they support land distribution, and these are the brothers. They want to limit land holding of aristocrats. They are eventually assassinated, and the development of private armies made up of landless peasants kind of develops, so people are trying to stand up against the fact that they are not allowed to own land and be part of the Roman wealth. So a civil war develops for about 5 years, and Gaius Marius takes Rome, and eventually they will drive Marius out in 83 BCE, and the Reign of Terror follows, which all of you have heard about. So Julius Caesar, is your very popular social reformer and conqueror. He seizes Rome in 49 BCE. He claims the title of dictator for life in 46 BCE. He rises in popularity through like public spectacles, victories, military victories. He is leading social reforms, centralizing control, so being the one person in control. And he eventually is assassinated in around 44. Caesar's politics. So he had his own kind of way of running things. He wanted to centralize the military, so he was in control, redistribute land to war veterans and other allies, and try to reduce urban unemployment by building projects in the area, extending citizenship to anywhere that Rome controls. And the aristocrats who were threatened, that's when they ultimately assassinated him. So Augustus, there is a conflict following the death of Caesar because he was such a great, powerful ruler that people then felt like they needed to find another way to be in control. So they followed, and Octavian brought civil conflict to an end. The Senate bestows the title of Augustus on him, and it's a monarchy disguised as a republic. The new army is under his control, and like more imperial institutions begin to develop. And that's again right here for us. He worked on stabilizing the empire, and he dies in 14 CE. The Roman occupation of remote areas, including like Germany and Spain, they continue to expand outward into there. They coordinate crop production, so making sure different groups raise different crops, transporting natural resources, develop like a good infrastructure, which is essential for a thriving city, and therefore cities start to emerge. Okay, and so this area is continuing expansion here. You have, again, the Roman roads being built. Those are all the red ones that you're extending now from just, a part of, or like Spain and Rome. Now you have like Gaul that's in between. You have up to Britain. You have all the way across like Dalmatia. You have down in Greece. You have all the way out into Mesopotamia. You have down into. So this is a period of Pax Romana, or Roman peace, and that's from 27 to 250 CE. Trade is better, communication is better, there's road work. The Roman roads are established, which was on the last slide, with curbs, drainage, paving stones that are flat, so it's easy for carts to move across. Milestones, postal service, all those things help trade continue. And the 12 tables, which is Roman law and tradition, that's in 450 BCE, and they begin to adapt to the diverse population, including, so early in the morning, including the innocent are innocent until proven guilty, and you can challenge your accused in court. So the commercial agriculture and trade, the las viviendas, production for export, regional specialization increases to certain areas based on where they are, produce different things to trade. The whole empire becomes under kind of one economic system, and the Mediterranean Sea becomes like our sea. And, back, the city of Rome, and that's again on the top of your, back of your outline. The wealth of the city is fueled because it starts to develop urbanly. There are statues, pools, fountains, arcs, temples, stadiums, all these new things, aqueducts, massive construction projects. They start to use concrete for these construction materials. They're attracting immigrants, and all this trade cash flow is increasing. Their technology advancement obviously is concrete. They attract, some of their attractions are like baths, pool, circuses, stadiums, amphitheaters, to become a cultural center as well. And this is, I guess, continued underground sewage. Circus Maximus has 250,000 spectators. The Colosseum, which is very popular, and of course gladiator games. As far as the society, they're pater familias, father of the family, and he has the right to arrange marriages or sell his children to slavery. Women are not allowed to do anything still, not allowed to inherit property. It's rarely enforced, but it's still, the fact that it exists is an issue. Some women do have considerable influence over their families, and they are able to supervise business. And wealth and social change, this is a section on your outline to fill out. The newly rich, so people who are going to work to be rich, challenge the current people, the aristocracy who's always been rich. The poor class, though, is increasing in size. The destruction of bread and circuses. They don't really have a policy of how to provide for them. And the poor class has become obviously a serious problem because many of the urban mass live at a subsistence level, so they can just barely make enough, just kind of a minimum wage, a low standard of living. Slavery is about 1/3 of the population, and they are working in agriculture, quarries, mines, chain labor, means they're chained when they work. And Spartacus will uprise against this slavery because the urban slaves saw better conditions and possibilities. They wanted it to be better for them. The polytheistic aspect of the Roman deities, they had gods and goddesses, they had major gods, they had household gods, and they kind of absorbed the gods from all the cultures they created or captured. Moving down to Cicero and Stoicism, Marcus Tullius Cicero was an orator and writer influenced by Greek thought, and he was a proponent of Stoicism. And Mithraism, they have Zoroastrian myth, the god of light and sun, and the Roman version emphasizes strength, courage, discipline, and it's kind of like a cult in which the women are not admitted, but it appealed to the military and the cult of Isis. Early Judaism and early Christianity. Jewish monotheism is at odds, so most people are believing in multiple gods. The Jewish refuse to recognize state gods, and there are repeated Jewish rebellions. The Romans finally crushed the Jewish self-government during the Jewish Wars, 66 to 70. This is one of the synagogues. You can see the Roman columns. The Essences is a messianistic Jewish cult. They believe in baptism and the Dead Sea Scrolls were the early. And Jesus of Nazareth is your last section, and this is following modern day Christianity. He is a Jewish teacher. He believes the moral code, so he had a reputation for miracle working, providing ways to provide for the people. Romans fear this and will eventually crucify Jesus. The belief in Jesus' resurrection and divine nature is what followers of Christianity believe in. And the title of Christ or Anointed One becomes prevalent. And the teachings are recorded in the New of the Bible. Paul of Tarsus extends the teaching beyond the Jewish circles. He travels widely throughout the Roman Empire through missionary work, trying to influence people. And the early Christian communities have local leaders or bishops. Modern day Christianity, some have bishops as well. They have variation depending on where they are, but they have the nature of resurrection and women as included, and they gradually accept core texts throughout all Christianity. The Romans will persecute them, and even with that, Christianity spreads, especially with people who don't have a lot, so urban poor and women tend to draw themselves to